Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Tea Time Tuesday. So excited about having you here today. Go ahead and like and share and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. All right. Welcome all of our tea timers. So glad to have you on. This is where we pause, reset, and build resilience. I'm Patrick J. Brown, Executive Director here at the Renewal Center. Excited about having all of you out there. What's going on? How you doing? Grab your journals. Grab your tea. All right. And we look forward to you being with us this evening. I want to welcome all of our tea timers. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Good evening, Carmela. Hello, hello. Good evening to you. So good to have you on, everyone. Go ahead and like and share and subscribe. Please share this with others. Bring them on in. All right. We're going to pause and reset and build resilience this evening. So glad to have you on. Yes, I'm excited as well. So glad to have you on this evening. Hello, Monique Jackson. Hello, hello. Proverbial Princessa. Hello, hello. Good to have you. Glad you're doing well. Thank you so much. Hello, Hope. How are you? All right, everybody, please like and share. We are here at Tea Time. What are we here to do? Pause, reset, and build resilience. This is a session out of the Renewal Center where we focus on renewal practices and our Tea Time community to ensure that we're pausing, resetting, and building resilience. This is our last day for Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring that this evening. So grab your tea, grab your journals, everybody, as we're concentrating on the importance of taking care of that as well. So we just want to bring some awareness to Mental Health Awareness Month, a time for care, time for clarity, and a time for renewal. All right. So it's important that we focus on who we are in renewal practices. And so this being our last Tuesday of this month, we want to concentrate on that. We're excited about having all of you here and being a part of our community. I also want to share with you just a few announcements before we actually get started. Here at the Renewal Center, our last Reforming Culture class is tomorrow. We've been covering several months on the Christology of spiritual formation. And want to make that announcement because tomorrow is the last class as we break for the summer. Want to encourage all of our reformers, all of our renewers, and all of our tea timers show up tomorrow for the last class. So you can be a part of that. And again, that's our last class for Reforming Culture as we break for the summer. Christology of spiritual formation. Want to invite you to be a part of that. We're excited about you being a part of it. So wanted to share that with you before we get started. All right. So let's go ahead and I want you to also grab your tea. If you don't have it, go ahead and grab your tea, grab your journal, give you a moment to do that. All right. And also want to honor our tea of the week, citrus tea. We're coming into this season for citrus tea, invigorating, zesty beverage. You blend black and green herbal teas, add some citrus fruits like lemon, orange, lime, grapefruit. This is a refreshing tea and is packed with antioxidants, vitamin C, and different essential oils. It is therefore a calming, stress relieving aroma. There's very different types of variety of citrus teas, sometimes made with Earl Grey, others citrus green tea, or even some herbal citrus blends. This is really good for immune support, very good iced options as well, and mood boosting. So I would say this is a happy tea. So want to encourage you as you're moving into this current spring season, go ahead and make you some citrus tea. All right. What is your tea of choice tonight? Please share with us your tea of choice this evening. And also, please make sure you grab your journal so as we get prepared for our renewal practices. So excited about each of you being with us this evening. All right. Hello, Found Favor. All right. Thank you for being on. Yes, citrus tea. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of our community tonight. Let's get the likes up. Go ahead and just press that like. All right. What is your tea of choice? Put that in the comments. Make sure you grab your journals, subscribe, and just share this with someone else. All right. Peppermint tea. All right. Thank you for joining us. Peppermint tea this evening. We're going to pause, reset, and build resilience. But before we get started with our renewal practices this evening, our focus actually for this evening is emotional rules. Practices that help guard, guide, and govern the heart. Again, as we close out Mental Health Awareness Month, this particular segment is going to be on emotional rules. All right. and ways that we can help guard, guide, and govern the heart. So it is important that we're focusing on that this evening. Let's get the likes up. All right. Quit drinking water. All right. Let's get the likes up, everyone. And let's ensure that we are connected. So we're going to spend a moment here. We're going to pause, reset, and build resilience. And water. Okay. Iced tea. All right. Hopefully everybody has their journal and you're prepared. And then let's go ahead and pause here for a moment. I want you to take a moment and we're just going to locate ourselves. Take a moment to really take deep breathing. Let's refresh ourselves. And then we'll come back here shortly for our renewal practices for this evening. See you in a moment. Let's take one more moment. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of locating yourself. All right. How's everybody doing today? We're going to focus on emotional rules. That is our focus for this evening. Emotional rules, practices that help guard, guide, and govern the heart. Now, when we think about mental health overall, mental health, again, is your state of your mental well-being. That includes emotions, that includes logic, intellect, imagination. It includes our desires. It includes our affections, our reasoning, our conscious. All that is in the soul. And so it's the state of your entire mental well-being. That's what mental health is about. And so we're going to take a portion of that and talk this evening and through our renewal practices about emotional rules. And so what does that mean when we think about emotional rules? Specifically would like you to consider that when we think about emotional rules, emotional health as part of that doesn't happen by accident. Just like in how we work out our bodies and we eat healthy, we are hydrated through drinking water, things like that, and the proper foods that we need. Health also in the emotional arena is cultivated through repeated practices and awareness and an acts of surrender that help the heart remain open and grounded and responsive instead of reactive. And so this evening is about an emotional rule of life. It's not about controlling every feeling. Not at all. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's not that either. Emotional rules, it's about creating rhythms that help us notice what is happening inside of us before our emotions begin leading us away from peace and wisdom and love and clarity. So I want you to put in the comments rhythms. All right. It's about creating rhythms. And what do those rhythms do? Those rhythms are designed to help us notice, to move us from awareness and move us into a place of action. And so here at the Renewal Center, one of our key areas is about renewing our minds and restoring our lives. And so this particular session helps us to consider how we can renew that area of our lives and our souls so we can live from the inside out in a healthy way. You know, many people have rules for their calendar. They have rules for money. They have rules even for the work that they do. They even have rules for their home. And so many times, very few people, they have rules for their emotions. And as a result, when there is no rule, every feeling gets to become a ruler. When there are no rules, every emotion can become a ruler because we don't have any rules that are in place. And so that's what we want to focus on. Really is about rhythms, which help us move from a space of awareness and it moves us into a place of action. Good evening, Ms. Harris. How are you? So good to have you on. So it's important, friends, that we think about rhythms as it relates to emotional health and the rules that come along with that. All right. So that is our opening frame this evening for our renewal practices, is that because there is no rule, every feeling gets to become a ruler. So we're going to talk about emotional rules of life. There are 5 of them I want to cover with you this evening. So grab your journal. All right. Grab your tea. We've already located ourselves. And so we want to focus on this because when we don't have a rule, anxiety can take the throne. Anger can start making decisions for us. Even an offense can become our counselor. Exhaustion can become part of our personality. Fear perhaps can become a filter. And so we're not called in life to be ruled by every emotion that rises within us. It's important that we acknowledge what we're experiencing, we surrender it to a rule, and make sure it's shaped and it's governed in a way that's going to help us. So this is not about emotional repression or suppression. It's not about that at all. It's not about pretending that we're okay when we're not okay, or it's not about smiling through our wounds or suppressing the pain or even calling avoidance to peace. No, an emotional rule is a sacred rhythm. It helps us ask different questions like, well, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it? It helps us ask questions like, why or what is this feeling asking me to do? Is this emotion leading me in a way that is productive or away from productivity? And so these practices will help us respond effectively from wisdom instead of allowing a particular emotion or emotions to rule us. So I want to get us grounded this evening in several different perspectives regarding emotional rules in ways that we can be responsive instead of being reactive to life. You will move from reaction to reflection. Instead of reacting about something, when I start setting emotional rules in my life, I move into reflection. Let's put that down. First thing, moving from reaction to reflection. Write that down, put that in the chat. Second one is impulse to intentionality. Impulse from intentionality. We don't want to respond and we don't want to move into a space of being impulsive. We want to move with intention. So we move from reaction to reflection to impulse to intentionality. We move from an inner pressure to more of a surrendered peace. And so that is what we want to make sure that we start implementing when we start working through these types of renewal practices. So I'm hoping that you'll understand by the end of our session this evening about the emotional rule of life and why this even matters, and then identify some habits that'll help support you through this and reflect on these 5 areas or these rules, and also maybe create a rule, a small emotional rule you can practice throughout your week and recognize that life is calling us many times to a deeper space of wholeness and honesty in healing as it relates to our emotional rules. So I hope that you're ready. Let me know you're ready, and then let's get started. All right. Yes, moving from reaction. Absolutely. This is so important, so critical to who we are. So again, we're going to talk through emotional rules, 3 emotional rules. Well, the first one, emotional rule, is the rule of gratitude. All right, the rule of gratitude. Now, this particular rule is so important. You say, well, wait a minute, I'm already grateful. We're talking about having gratitude as a practice in life. When you think about gratitude, gratitude trains the heart to recognize grace even when life is not perfect. Gratitude helps you recognize grace. It's not about denial, but it's a refusal to let difficulty become the only voice in the room. The rule of gratitude. The rule of gratitude is so important that this is something, when we begin to embrace the rule of gratitude, what we end up happening is in the renewal practice of cultivating this particular rule, each day, I want to encourage you, like, write specific things. And we'll do this evening, but I wanted to start out with this because when we start out with a gratitude rule, it starts training your heart to recognize grace. It does. And it helps you shift from denying something, But what you end up doing in gratitude is you refuse to let difficulty become the only voice in the room. It does not, again, deny. It doesn't deny. Okay, this is not about that. It is about a refusal to let what we're being challenged by or what's causing us pain or what's causing us a challenge to be the only voice in the room. Just because it has a voice, it does not mean it's the only voice in the room. Many times when life gets busy, gratitude slips away quietly. And we don't all, generally usually lose gratitude all at once. We lose it in rush. We lose it in comparison. We lose it in disappointment. Many times we keep rehearsing what's missing and we stop noticing what's been maintained. We stop rehearsing we keep rehearsing what's missing. And as a result of that, when we do that, we keep rehearsing what is missing. We stop noticing what we have and who we are. So it's important that it doesn't mean we give thanks for the things that are terrible, like trauma and injustice. It just means that we learn to give thanks in the circumstance. All right. Doesn't mean we're absent from circumstance. Gratitude is important. Gratitude shifts your attention from scarcity to grace. Gratitude restores life because it softens resentment and envy and despair. It causes us, when we're thankful, we even carry a different atmosphere about us when we possess and demonstrate gratitude. So important. Doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be honest when you're focusing on gratitude specifically. So our first rule, again, this is about a rule, an emotional rule in life. The main idea here is that it trains me to recognize grace. So what is the renewal practice behind this evening? All right, this is important. What is the actual renewal practice this evening for this? Well, let's dig into this a little bit further. All right, want to make sure that we're clear on this. The renewal practices at the end of each day, I want you to write three specific things, something you saw, something you received, and something that reminded you that God is near, that life is important. See, when you have specific gratitude, it helps your heart pay attention. So we're going to work that this evening in your journal. I want you to think about this. Make this a rule of gratitude every day. You're struggling with your boss. You're struggling with something that is challenging in your workplace, something that's difficult in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family dynamics. I want you to specifically think about this. And I want you to consider, when we consider gratitude, a gratitude rule, what are three specific things, something you saw, received, or reminded you that God is near? It reminded you that life is precious, that it's valuable. And when you get specific like that in gratitude, it helps your heart pay attention to those areas. So I want you to do that. Take your time. See, gratitude does not erase the struggle. It reminds your soul that struggle is not the whole story. It's not the whole story. I'm struggling with something. It's difficult. It's a painful situation. I'm in hardship. I'm really overwhelmed right now. Gratitude does not erase that at all. It reminds your soul that this particular struggle is not the entire story. So each day, that's the practice. Three specific things: something you saw, something you received, and something that reminded you about the quality of life, about life itself. All right. The rule of gratitude. We move ourselves, not because we're in denial, but we refuse to let our hardship, our struggle, our challenge to become the only voice in the room. Are you with me this evening, tea timers? So our first rule is the rule of gratitude. The rule of gratitude. Again, folks, we're talking about emotional rules this evening. Emotional rules, practices that help guard, guide, and govern the heart. And the first one we're talking about this evening is what? The rule of gratitude. All right, let's move to the next one. All right, the next one is the rule of forgiveness. The rule of forgiveness. Go ahead and put forgiveness in the chat. Write it down. Forgiveness. the rule of forgiveness. We want to cultivate the habit of gratitude. Now we're going to cultivate the habit of forgiveness. Forgiveness. All right. So we went through gratitude. So we want to say, before I end the day rehearsing what went wrong, I will pause and name where grace met me. That's gratitude. So that's the rule there. The emotional rule for gratitude is, before I end the day rehearsing what went wrong, I will pause and name where grace met me. Whereas, so that means what we'll do in forgiveness, we will in gratitude, I want you to change even your questions. What went well today? What was incredible about your day? What was productive about your experiences on this Tuesday? Reframe your questions. You will reframe the energy in your answers. So when we think about forgiveness now as a rule, the forgiveness rule is it releases the heart from the prison of offense without pretending the wound did not matter. So yes, my heart becomes released from this prison that tries to keep me in perpetual offense. But we're not pretending that the wound did not happen. But what's happened is I am releasing the right to be internally ruled by what happened. Keyword rule. Keyword rule. I'm releasing the right to be internally ruled by what happened. Forgiveness does this. We're going to do a practice for this too. And we're going to add some prayer to this because that's important. Forgiveness releases the heart from this prison of offense. All right. No, we're not pretending that the wound happened. No, we're not doing that either. All right. So the second rule is the rule of forgiveness. You say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by this? This has been difficult. It's been challenging. When we cultivate this, forgiveness is one of those most misunderstood practices in emotional life and in spiritual life. Many times we resist forgiveness because we think it means excusing what happened or minimizing the damage or even restoring unsafe access or acting like the wound was not real. No, it's not denial. It does not mean that the offense was acceptable. It doesn't mean trust is automatically restored, or that reconciliation even at times is possible, or that boundaries are unnecessary. It doesn't mean any of those things. It means that as an emotional rule, we release the right to be internally ruled by what happened. Write that down. Internally ruled. I release the right to be internally ruled by what happened. When we have a rule of forgiveness, think about this. We started out with the habit or the rule of gratitude. Then we cultivate a habit of or rule of forgiveness. No, I'm not pretending it didn't happen. No, the offense was not acceptable and trust is not automatically restored. And it doesn't mean that boundaries are not necessary. No, it doesn't mean any, but I am releasing the right to be internally ruled by what happened. So this is what takes place, T-timers, when we cultivate this particular rule, and this is the rule of forgiveness. See, forgiveness, this is a rule. What is ruling me internally? We got to think about this. Internally ruled. Write it down. Put it in the comments. Internally ruled. That's the key phrase here, is ensuring that we're not internally ruled by what we've experienced. Why? Because if we are ruled internally, we cannot be free in our minds. All right, I know it's difficult. It's extremely challenging, but this is really about you. It's not about the offender. So even as you think about it as a practice, sometimes you got to say, Lord, I release this person in your hands. I release my demand to carry this offense as my identity. I will not carry that offense as my identity. Give me wisdom for boundaries, courage for healing. Give me grace to walk free. That is a practice. I'm releasing this person into your hands. Matter of fact, I can't control them anyways. What difference does it make? I release that. I release my demand to carry this as my identity. See, when we don't establish the rule of forgiveness, the offense becomes a part of your identity. And I will not let offense become the owner of my inner life. I'll bring that wound to a place of healing before they become bitter in me. Bitterness is about tasting life. It's bitter. So when I'm bitter, I can't taste freedom. It's bitter to me. And so as a result of that, many things, when I taste life, I taste it through the lens, through the taste of bitterness. So again, the second rule is the rule of forgiveness. I hope this is helpful, someone. So when we're experiencing forgiveness, it's not saying the wound was small. It's saying the wound will not become my master. The wound will not become my master. Forgiveness is about what rules you, who rules you. And I'm just not going to let it become my master. I'm not going to let it rule me. I will not become enslaved by this. Oh, this is good. Good emotion. I'm going to drink my tea to that one. Oh, yes. Come on, this is helpful. Somebody just put in the comments. Hashtag tea time. Tea time Tuesday. Okay. All right. We're in forgiveness, y'all. We're in forgiveness. We talked about gratitude. First rule. Second rule, forgiveness. So let's go again. Tea time. Yep, there it is. Bring it on in. Get the likes up, everybody. Let's get the shares going. Make sure we get our subscriptions up and running. And we're not saying the wound was small. We're saying the wound will not become my master. The wound will not become my master. No, it will not. All right. I hope this is helping someone because it's definitely helping me. Okay. So this is important. Let's move on to the next one. The rule of, and again, we're talking about emotional rules of life this evening, practices that help guard, guide, and govern the heart. Rule number one, the rule of gratitude. Rule number two, the rule of forgiveness. Rule number three. Rule number three is presence. The rule of presence. All right. Again, these are emotional rules to help us. Again, we're actually closing out this particular month. Amen. This is important that we look at the rule of presence. Well, okay, Patrick, what is the rule of presence? You're cultivating the gift of presence. And the rule of presence is important. How is this important to emotional rules of life when we think about cultivating this particular rule? See, presence is the practice of offering your attention as an act of love. It's rare because in our society today, presence really is interesting because presence has moved us into a place where presence is rare because distraction has become normal. Distraction's just normal. Go out to a restaurant with your friends. What do you start doing? You can be somewhere fully distracted by devices, distracted by other things. People are many times they're physically available, but they're emotionally absent. They're in the room, but they're not there. They're hearing someone, but they're not really receiving the person. They can be close in the proximity, but distant in attention. So presence is not just a communication skill, it's a practice. So cultivate the rule of presence. Presence is critical. Presence, everyone. It's when you're present, to truly be present is to say, you matter enough for me to slow down, listen, and be there. You matter enough to me where I'm going to slow down. I'm going to listen and I'm going to be there. That's presence. That is a practice. I'm going to put the phone in the other room. Yes, I am. I'm going to put it in a different space. I'm going to look directly into your eyes. I'm going to focus on my posture. I'm going to listen without preparing my defense because I need to let you know. I'm going to notice when my own mind wanders, and then I'm going to come back without shame. You know what? My mind did wander. Let me bring it back to focus on presence. Sometimes presence is not even words, but it's mindset, it's intention, it's motive. Presence is not perfection. We're not talking about that. Presence, write this down, is returning. Presence is returning. What do you mean returning? I'm returning to you. I'm returning to you. So that's important because there are distractions. I'm returning to you. This is important, friends, tea timers. We're talking about the rules, five emotional rules of life. And one of them is presence. That is an incredible gift that we give to one another. I'm not distracted. I'm not hurried. I'm not detached. It's not always about mission. Sometimes it's about nearness because I don't want to be distracted. Now, granted, we cannot sustain perfect presence. That's not what I'm talking about, right? Our minds do wander. It does. Our attention drifts. It does. Our bodies can sit still and our minds are all over the place. But what this is talking about, presence is returning, is I'm growing in my capacity to return. Yes, my mind wanders. I acknowledge that. Yes, my attention can drift. I acknowledge that. Yes, I could be sitting still here physically and my thoughts run ahead. But we can grow in our capacity to return. That's what I'm talking about when we say presence is returning. That's a rule. Sometimes you got to be courageous and put that phone in the other room and look that person in the eyes and listen and not preparing my defense and noticing when my mind wanders. I apologize. My mind wandered. You are important to me. I want to listen. Maybe even ask, here's another one. Maybe asking one more question before even giving your opinion. You know, for many people, the issue is not about that they don't care. It's their attention hasn't been trained. Their attention, our attention has been trained by hurry. Our attention is trained by noise and stress and technology. I was in back-to-back calls, and I had to send a message and say, I need to stop for a moment because I'm rushing through everything today. I'm going to step out for a moment. I'm going to listen to this rain. I'm just going to look at the rain. I'm going to breathe a little bit because our attention can become trained by hurry. It can become trained by noise, and it can be trained by technology. So when we deal with presence as a rule, you reclaim attention as stewardship. Wow. I reclaim that attention as stewardship. Okay. So this is the importance of presence as a rule in your life. We started out with what? Gratitude. Then we moved into forgiveness, but rules also, the presence is also an important rule. Because as we think about this as a rule in life, then perhaps is when I am with someone, I will practice being where my body is. Now, I know that's tough, but when I'm with someone, when I'm with a group, my friends, family, when I'm there, I will practice being where my body is. Let me not have my body here. My mind's all over the place. You ever been on the phone with someone? You're talking to them, and then they take a full conversation while they're on the phone with you. They're not being in presence. And if you mention it, then people want to get bothered. Well, I just was interrupted. Well, I mean, come on. I can see 30 seconds. I can see 1 minute. I'll take it that further, but a full-blown dialogue. Even in customer service, if you're going to put somebody on hold, you know, Mr. Brown, I'm going to put you on hold for 30 seconds. I'll be right shortly. Boom. Put them on hold. Make sure you're watching it. Come back on, Mr. Brown. Yes. Thank you for holding. And you go back into the conversation. You know? Well, if you could do that for a customer, then shouldn't we do that when we're face-to-face with people? Or are we going to put them on hold forever, the whole song? So again, I have hold music for people. Hold on a second. No, we can't do that. All right? We want to practice being where my body is. I want to be present there. And I'm talking to you, and my mind is just all over the place. You know, you're sitting there, and, yeah, I think it's a good, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're trained by noise, trained by hurry, trained by distractions. Practice being where your body is. I mean, I want everybody to think about this out. We're talking about rules, emotional rules to help guard our lives, guide our hearts. Presence is one of them. Now, here's a question I want to ask. What would the people closest to you say about your ability to be truly present? Now, before you answer, I always present. Just think about it. What would the people closest to you say about your ability to be truly present? Or what about what most often steals your presence? Is it hurry? Is it phone use? Is it anxiety? Oh, yeah, and this is for you folks. Is it for multitasking? The multitasking folks. Well, I'm multitasking. You're not paying attention. So you know what? But I can multitask and I can still listen to you. No. Focus. Presence. I'm practicing where my body is. Because our many times our minds and our hearts, they're fully inundated and trained by hurry, noise, stress, technology, multitasking, emotional fatigue. You know, sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your undivided soul. Because distraction, when we're not present, it makes people feel tolerated instead of treasured. All over the place when you're supposed to be engaging with that person or those groups right then. You don't want your body to be in the room and your heart and head is somewhere else. Presence is never drifting. It's learning how to return. All right, everybody, write in the comments. Learn how to return. It's not about drifting. It's about learning how to return. Because your body can be in the room, but your heart and your head is somewhere else. And you don't want that to happen. So really give people your undivided. So that's so important. All right. Very critical in order for us to do that. All right. Let's go into the next rule. Hopefully this is helpful for everybody. All right. Learn how to return. That's right. Learn how to return. Let's go to the next rule. All right. Our next rule is the rule of regulation. We've talked about this before. The rule of regulation. Regulation is about emotional regulation. Regulation is about self-regulation. That's another gift. So let's write them all down. Everybody type in gratitude, forgiveness. Got it? Gratitude, forgiveness, presence, regulation. So we're now on regulation. Now, regulation, when we think about this in terms of emotional self-regulation, this is really noticing your emotional temperature. Self-regulation is practicing, it's the practice of noticing your emotional temperature before your reaction becomes regret. So that's what happens in self-regulation. I have a practice of noticing my emotional temperature before my reaction becomes my regret. So it's basically another way of talking about self-control. Well, you made me. No, 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 no. You push my buttons. No, you're not an elevator. So let's put that in the comments. You are not an elevator. Self-regulation is really another way of saying self-control. So this is important because what we're feeling, again, emotions are indicators. They're informers, but they should not always instruct us. They're informers, but they should not always what? Instruct us. So informers, but not instructors. Write it down. So that means that anger should inform me, but it shouldn't instruct me. That fear could inform me, but it should not instruct me. That anxiety should inform me, but it should not instruct me. So we're talking about, again, the rule of regulation. The rule of regulation is important because I'm recognizing what's informing me, but not always instructing me. So I ask myself, am I calm or am I defensive? Am I overwhelmed or is my response proportionate? A pause can be a prayer. A breath can be obedience. Even delayed response can deliver you. So my rule here is saying I will pause long enough to let wisdom speak before my wound answers. Did you get that? I will pause long enough to let my wound before my wound answers. I'll pause long enough to let wisdom speak. I'm not going to allow the wound to totally answer. Very important. I will pause long enough to let wisdom speak before my wound answers. You can't just run off at the mouth. I say what I got. No. Regulation. That's a rule. So, emotionally mature people, having emotional maturity is not the absence of any feeling or emotion. No, it's the presence of wisdom inside of it. That's any emotion, happy, sad, frustration, whatever it is. Emotional maturity is not the absence of those things, not at all. It's the presence of the wisdom that's inside of that feeling. So my question tonight, tea timers, how aware are you of your emotional temperature in a tense conversation? How aware are you? Very important question to consider. I would consider that our reflection question for this evening. All right, is this helpful to everybody? I hope this is helpful. Again, I will pause long enough. All right, we're going to pause long enough. Very important that we're able to do that. All right, one last rule. All right, let's write them out there. Are you still with me, everyone? Hopefully you're here. And again, we want to make sure they're informers, but they're not instructors, like totally always an instructor. Make sure that we allow those things to inform us so that we can continue to grow in terms of the rules of our lives, the importance of the rules. And I started out by this evening, in our tea time today, making sure that we understand that this doesn't happen by accident. It's cultivated through repeated practices and awareness and little acts of surrender that helps us remain open to transformation and grounded. And we become more responsive than we are reactive people. And so, no, we don't want to control every feeling or pretending everything is fine. That's not it. It's about, again, what I start out with, creating rhythms. And those rhythms help us notice what's happening inside of us before, what we're feeling or what we're thinking can lead us away from peace, lead us away from wisdom, move us away from wholeness. That's important. So that is why we're establishing this, that because where there is no rule, many times every feeling gets to become a ruler. And that's not what we want. All right. We don't want to be ruled by every single thing that rises up, but it's important that we acknowledge what's going on. We surrender it. We allow it to be shapen and governed by these rules. And this is not about emotional repression at all. It's not about suppressing any pain. It's not about smiling through our wounds. We're not avoiding, anything like that. That's avoiding, calling avoidance peace. Avoidance is not peace. Avoidance is avoidance. It's not peace. All right. Suppressing pain. No. Smiling through wounds. No. Mm-mm. Sacred rhythms are important. We started out with that. Making sure that I ask, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it? And what is this feeling asking me to do? And what is this doing? Is this leading me towards character or away from character? Is it leading me towards wisdom or away from wisdom? Is it leading me towards wholeness or is it moving me away from it? Am I responding more with wisdom instead of reacting from a place of woundedness? It's again, the heart must be guarded in every way because it's the gateway. That's why we have rules. It helps shapes what? Our words. It shapes our choices. It shapes our responses. It shapes our relationships. And it shapes definitely our habits. No, we don't guard and have rules by becoming hard. No. We become wise. We're not shutting everything out. What we're doing is we're discerning what should be allowed to shape us. That's what this emotional rule is about. All right, y'all ready for the last one? Ready for number 5? The last rule of regulation this evening. Glad this is helpful. So thank you. You're welcome. All right, this is important. Stewardship. The last rule is stewardship. The rule of stewardship. Well, what does stewardship have to do with, emotional ruling? Well, let's break this down. When we talk about stewardship, and stewardship is about what we've been entrusted with. All right. So when we think about the stewardship question, and before I do that, let me just make sure we understand this. All right. When we do the last one on regulation, I want you to think about also what's one sign that you can notice that you're emotionally escalating. That's another question to ask yourself as well. Like a sign that you are emotionally escalating. That's important to know that for awareness purposes. All right, now let's get over here to the last one, which is on stewardship. And this is part of your soul's stewardship. And this may surprise you, but this particular statement, but this particular rule has a lot to do with it's just important to have this particular rule in our lives. Excuse me. And the main reason behind that, by having that, is because, we try to practice patience and gratitude and forgiveness and presence while our bodies are exhausted. And there it is. We try to practice patience and gratitude and forgiveness and regulation and presence while our bodies are exhausted, dehydrated, undernourished, overwhelmed, running on fumes. And then we wonder why am I irritable and anxious and reactive and emotionally depleted? Perhaps it's because I'm not practicing stewardship. I am exhausted. I am dehydrated. I'm undernourished. I'm over hyperstimulated. I'm running on fumes. Oh, just so much going on. I'm just you're depleted. You wonder why you're irritable and all this other stuff. It's because stewardship. We've been created to be whole people, not just floating around trapped in this body. We're whole, integrated. So what happens in the body can affect the emotions. And what happens in the emotions can affect the body. Again, what happens in the body can affect the emotions. What happens in the emotions can affect the body. What does that mean? That means sleep matters. Write that down. Put that in the chat. Sleep. Movement matters. Food matters. Rest matters. Breathing matters. Rhythm matters. This is about stewardship. It's not about being vain. It's about stewardship. Sleep. How I move. Stretch. Breathing. Try it sometime. Get an intense conversation in your team meeting. Hold on, everyone. Let's pause. Let's regulate. Movement matters. Breathing matters. Rest matters. Rhythm matters. Micro movements, they matter. That's about stewardship. Caring for the body is caring for the life that's been entrusted to you. Tired bodies many times will intensify anxious thoughts. You know what rest and rhythm does? That creates internal reserves when we have rest and rhythm. All right. Exhaustion is not the price of value or worth at all. I just got to grind it out. I got to grind it out. No, you need to go to bed. I got to grind it out. That's right. I'm on the grind. You don't understand. We got to grind. Everybody else sleeping. I'm eating. Everybody got to eat. I got to cook. Let them cook, No, sleep matters. Rest matters. Breathing matters. Food matters. Movement, rhythm, all of that. So we got to resist this lie that exhaustion is the price for admission to value. No, it's not. So I want us to think about this as a rule. Got 3 minutes left here. We're almost done. All right. Again, we're closing out our Mental Health Awareness Month with focus on emotional rules. All right. That's the focus for this evening. Last one is what? Stewardship. Let's weigh in a little bit more. Am I sleeping enough to support emotional steadiness? Am I moving my body in a way that supports health? Am I confusing exhaustion, with spiritual failure or something? I mean, if you're living depleted, you're not going to have good regulation. People call it a spiritual problem. Sometimes it's just physical, depletion. Doesn't mean we don't need prayer. I'm not saying that either. But you know what? We need to move our prayers into practice. Lord, show me a sign. Let me know. The Lord saying, go to bed. Lord, give me a sign. The Lord said, well, you're sitting all day. Lord, show me a sign. Well, your diet's different. Lord, give me a sign. You're not resting. Lord, I need a sign. Breathing matters. Lord, I need a sign. Rhythm. You know what I mean? It's like it's all there, but we want a sign. How many more signs do we need to get stewardship where it needs to be? Because this is what we've been given. I need a sign. No, rest, sleep. That's the answer. Eat. Get some water in your system. Simplicity. All of that is stewardship. That's an emotional rule. Friends, tea timers. All right, let's get this together. Very important. I think we need to say, I will care for my body as part of caring for my emotional and my spiritual life. I will care for my body as a part, not separate, from emotional and spiritual life. Where do you need a healthier rhythm? Is it in your sleep? Is it in movement or hydration, rest, stress recovery? Sometimes the soul feels heavy because the body has been ignored. And sometimes exhaustion can make small things feel like spiritual warfare. I'm going through so much. It's because you're exhausted. It may not even be spiritual warfare. You're just exhausted. Your body's not some interruption to your spiritual life or emotional life. It's part of your stewardship. And you know what? Rest is not laziness when it's restorative. Oh, it's not laziness when it is restorative. And you cannot consistently pour from a body that you refuse to replenish. Friends, I hope this has been helpful to you tonight. All right. This is when we think about pausing and resetting and building resilience in the area of emotional health, this is where it is. So I want to close out just a quick review. Our 5 rules. One more time. The role of gratitude. The rule, of gratitude. The rule of forgiveness. The rule of presence. The rule of regulation. The rule of stewardship. Name your grace before you rehearse your grief. Release offense before it becomes identity. Be where your body is. Pause before your pain speaks for you. Care for your body as part of caring for your souls. These are our 5 emotional rules that I want to encourage us to be very solid and grounded in. All right, let's work through this from a journaling discussion perspective. I'm going to ask you a few questions and I want you to write them down, and perhaps feel free to put your answers in the comments as a working session as well to think about this. You know, when you think about this from a perspective of our first principles of gratitude, where does gratitude feel easy for you, or where does it feel difficult? That's an important reflection question to help us think about perhaps what is blocking me from the emotional rule or the habit in cultivating gratitude. So where does it feel easy for you, and where does it feel more difficult? So I want you to think about that potentially. All right. Let's think about when we think about the rule or cultivating the habit of forgiveness. Here's another one. What misunderstanding about forgiveness has made it harder for you to practice? What is there a misunderstanding about it that's made it harder for me to practice? See, again, I want to repeat this because it's not about the wound, saying the wound is small. It's not even about that. It's about saying, again, the wound will not become my owner, my master, my ruler. And I can acknowledge there's damage without allowing that damage to rule me, to raise me, to frame my life. And so when I hold those things, that bitterness keeps my heart in conversation with pain long after the moment has passed. It's been 4 years, and what I'm doing is I still keep having a conversation in my heart and in my head with the pain long after that moment of that pain has passed. We must stop giving yesterday permission to govern tomorrow. Consider that as you think about this rule. Let's move on to the gift of presence. Excuse me. When we think about this as a reflection, what most often, steals your presence? I want you to think about that. What often steals your presence? Is it hurry? Is it phone use? Is it allowing interruptions? Is it something you're anxious about, an anxious thought? Is it multitasking? Is it emotional fatigue, or is something else? Whatever. All right. Think about this. What often steals your presence? And really honestly answer it. Why? Because your body can be in the room, but your heart and your head is someone else. And you don't want to have a bunch of distractions, because that could make people feel tolerated instead of really helping them be treasured. All right. I'm not saying, it's not a, as we're drifting, you got to learn how to return. All right, let's move on to regulation and think through this from a development perspective. What is one sign that you're emotionally escalating? When you see the sign, you know that you're emotionally escalating. And then that helps you become aware, or how aware are you of your emotional temperature, especially in a tense conversation. So sometimes the best thing you can do is a pause or a breathe or a moment of silence to get wisdom, or even a delayed response. Those things right there are very helpful when it comes to regulation. All right. Asking yourself, am I calm? Am I irritated? Am I defensive? Am I overwhelmed? I've had to ask that question recently. Okay. Am I irritated? Why? Am I being defensive? Why? Answer that question. Sit with it. Am I overwhelmed? Why? Sitting there. Am I about to say something from pain instead of wisdom? I got to say what I got to say. Is my response proportionate to what's really happening? Sometimes the most effective thing you can do is pause, is breathe, is a moment of silence so that you can recover, reframe, be delayed. Why? For wisdom can speak before my womb starts answering people. All right, let's move on. Stewardship's the last one. I'm going too long now. All right. When we think about stewardship, again, I think I asked this earlier. Where do you need more healthier wisdom? Is it in your sleep, movement, hydration, your food, your nutrition, your rest, your stress recovery? All those things important, because you don't want exhaustion to make small things feel like you're under spiritual warfare, or, rest is not about laziness. When it's restorative, it gives you a capacity to love well, to live well. And you cannot consistently pour from a body that you refuse to replenish. That includes your soul. All right. So thanks again for you being a part. I hope that this tea time has been effective for you. I want you to put in the comments, if you will, what are some of your takeaways? All right. What are some of your takeaways this evening? What are some things that you're thinking about? What's new for you? What's renewing for you? What is reframing for you? What are you going to apply differently? Please go ahead and put that in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Give you your perspective and your thoughts before we close out this evening. And I want you to think about what this is going to do for you. It's going to give your life structure, your inner life structure. Right? When we constantly have effective, repeated practices of these kind of emotional rules, it gives your reactions accountability. It even gives your relationships protection, and it can introduce into your life a cadence, a rhythm for healing. And so I want you to build it around gratitude, forgiveness, all right, self-regulations, presence, and of course, stewardship. That is important. If I had more time with you, I would do a guided reflection. We'd spend some time and open up for discussion as a group, as a coaching group. But again, I want us to become more aware of what's happening within us without becoming afraid of it. All right. We want to bring our emotions into presence. We want to practice gratitude when life feels heavy, or forgiveness when wounds are feeling deep, and presence when distraction pulls us away. Even stewardship when emotions rise, and when our body needs care, renewing our minds and restoring our hearts. And that will reform, friends, the way we live and love and listen, and also the way that we respond. So thank you so much for your time. Let's see some takeaways here. All right. Darlene says here, my takeaway is rest is not laziness when it is restorative. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Anybody else? Some of your takeaways: simple stewardship. All of it matters. That's absolutely right. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Please feel free. As we're doing that, I want to remind everyone again of our Tea Time community. Thank you so much for being on this evening. Hope that as you share, what are your takeaways? Want to remind you we're here with you every first and fourth this evening. Of course, we're 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every first Tuesday at 12 noon, and last Tuesday is the fourth for 7 p.m. here on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to connect with us. Please like it. Subscribe. All right, subscribe and share this with others. I want to encourage you also that we do have each and every Sunday here at the Renewal Center, the New You Digital Discipleship, each Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please see the Zoom ID and the New You password. We'd love to see you there Sunday. We're looking forward to our time of fellowship at our digital discipleship this coming Sunday, 10 a.m. Also, to remind you, coming up on our second Fridays, all right, we have June 12th. In June, we will have our next Friday morning prayer, 6:30 a.m. You don't have to turn your camera on. Let's come and let's sit in prayer together every second Friday at 6:30 a.m. Would love to see you there. Also want to say, as we're closing out our Reforming Culture on Wednesdays, our last class is tomorrow. We will start introducing our Wednesday prayer, which is on Wednesday, one Wednesday per month, starting June 17th. and July 15th and August 19th. Mark your calendars. Please follow us on all of our social media at I Am Renewal and Instagram, as well as on our Facebook page. Also, please, our website, therenewalcenters.com. Want to encourage you to be part of that. And lastly, thank you so much for supporting the Renewal Center. here are the ways that you can give. So I'd like you to think about partnering with the Renewal Center. Say, the Renewal Center, this has been a strength to me. It's been added value to my life. I want to encourage you to share it with others, for one. Secondly, please follow us here and subscribe. Share this link with someone new, somebody you haven't shared this link with this evening. Let them know that we're here. If we get the likes up, that gets us more people to connect with us, our community. And these are the ways you can give. You can give directly online to the renewalcenters.com/give. Our text Renewal Center to that number there on the screen, 888-364-4483. 888-364-4483. Also, our PayPal and our Zelle is the Renewal Center 2020@gmail.com. And our Venmo is @Renewal Center for Venmo. Now, you can mail a check also or money order to P.O. Box 1381, Concord, North Carolina, 28026. These are ways that you can give and support us. So thank you so much. Let's go back and see. Any other comments? All right. That's come up. Just want to check in if anybody. All right. Here's another one. For Rabia Princessa says, same, simplicity, rest, sleep, release. All right. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Any other takeaways? Please feel to put them in the comments. And again, thank you so much for being a part of our Tea Time community. Let's pause. Let's reset. Let's build resilience. Let's take another moment to locate ourselves. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll hopefully see you in our Reforming Culture on Wednesday, our New You Digital Discipleship on Sunday, or at our next Tea Time. Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you next time.